Everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be covering the films that we love from 1932. Join me if we look back in time. These are the films that were very popular and that we loved in 1932. 20,000 Years in Sing Sing is a crime drama family noir. Brash hoodlum Tom Connors enters Sing Sing cocksure of himself and disrespectful toward authority, but his tough but compassionate warden changes him. 20,000 Years in Sing Sing. The rich are always with us. A socialite gets a divorce, but can't keep out of her ex-husband's life. This is a comedy, drama, and romance. So basically, she wanted a divorce, but she can't bear being separated from him. So comedy ensues, and love triangles happen. Check out The Rich Are Always With Us. Next up is A Bill of Divorcement. Drama. A man, Hilary Fairfield, returns home after 15 years in a mental asylum. However, he finds things are not the way they were when he left. John Barrymore in A Bill of Divorcement. Next up, we have Alice in Wonderland, adventure, family, and fantasy film. In Victorian England, a bored young girl dreams that she has entered a fantasy world called Wonderland, populated by even more fantastic characters. So this will be Alice in Wonderland. Next up you see is As You Desire Me, a drama and romance. An officer tries to convince an amnesiac bar entertainer that she is his long-lost lover. So she's trying to play the field. Maybe she wants his money, or who knows, but this stars Greta Garbo, phenomenal powerhouse actress. Check it out. Next we have is Backstreet. A woman's love for and devotion to a married man results in her being relegated to the back streets of life. This is a drama, music, and mystery. And this is Backstreet, starring Irene Dunn. Check it out. Next up, we have The Beast of the City, crime, drama, and film noir. Police Chief Jim ruthlessly goes after organized crime and is prepared to use brutal and violent methods to fight it. This is a very great movie. Check it out if you haven't already. The Beast of the City. Next up, we have is Broken Lullaby. Drama, French soldier travels to Germany to find a family of a man he killed during World War I. Alright, this is Broken Lullaby, and it's a very good movie. If you haven't already, check it out. I highly recommend it. Another movie that was great in 1932 was Shandu the Magician. When delusional madman Roxor kidnaps a scientist in hopes of using his death ray to achieve world dominance, he is opposed by Shandu, a powerful hypnotist and yogi. So check out Shandu the Magician. Next we have College Coach. Coach Gore, a ruthless and cynical big-time football coach, neglects his wife in his unrelenting drive to make Calvert College a football power. Drama and sport, starring Dick Powell. But it's also a comedy. Next up we have Devil in the Deep. We have Tallulah Bankhead and Gary Cooper. A man sets out for revenge after learning of his wife's affair. So she's being all slutty, and now he's going to get payback. So check out The Devil in the Deep. And this is Cary Grant, I believe, is in this movie too. There's a little small role. Cary Grant. Next up we have the Marx Brothers in Duck Soup. Rufus T. Firefly is named the dictator of bankrupt Fredonia. Hail, hail Fredonia. Duck Soup is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, you have to. It is a must watch. Duck Soup featuring the Marx Brothers. Next up we have another great movie called Freaks. A circus's beautiful trapeze artist agrees to marry the leader of a sideshow performers, but his deformed friends discover she is only marrying him for his inheritance. So, Kind of sad, but it's called Freaks. Check it out. It'll tug at your heartstrings. Next up, we have the Grand Hotel. A group of very different individuals staying at a luxurious hotel in Berlin deal with each other of their respective dramas. Almost like Big Brother, right? Isn't this a precursor of Big Brother? This is called Grand Hotel, featuring Barrymore and Greta Garbo. Next, we have John Wayne in Haunted Gold. John and Janet get a weird letter telling them to go to a ghost town, which has an abandoned mine. There they contend with bad guys looking for hidden gold. This is John Wayne, one of his early films. Check it out. It is a mystery and western movie. Next, we have Hell's House. Alright, we have Jimmy idolizing bootlegger Matt, and when he refuses to implicate his friend, he is sent to reform school. He befriends Shorty, a boy with a heart condition, and escapes to let the world know of his innocence. Hell's House. Next, we have Her Mad Night. A woman is accused of murdering a man who molested her young daughter. Her Mad Night. So back then in 1932, they were covering some very serious topics. So they weren't just prevalent in the 80s and 90s. They were prevalent in 1932. Next, we have High Pressure featuring William Powell. Gar Evans is a high-pressure promoter who tends to be unrealistically optimistic about his projects and exaggerates the chance of success. High Pressure features William Powell and one of the funny comedy movies of the era. Another Marx Brothers classic called Horse Feathers. Comedy, family, musical. Quincy Adams Wagstaff. Huxley University's new president accidentally hires bubblers Zeppo, Marco, or Harpo, Marco. It's a Marx Brothers film, watch it. What else? Hot Saturday. A pretty but virtuous small-town bank clerk is the victim of a vicious rumor from an unsuccessful suitor that she spent the night with a notorious womanizer. Hot Saturday. Cary Grant, one of Cary Grant's earliest movies. Check it out. It's really, really good. Another movie I recommend is Island of Lost Souls. A mad doctor conducts ghastly genetic experiments on a remote island in the South Seas, much to the fear and disgust of the shipwrecked sailor who finds himself trapped there. Island of Lost Souls. It's kind of a horror film noir sci-fi. Next up, we have William Powell and Kay Francis. I love Kay Francis in Jewel Robbery. A gentleman thief charms a Viennese baron's wife and also conducts a daring daylight robbery of a jeweler's. Jewel Robbery. Next up, we have Joan Crawford in Lady Linton. A socialite begins a shipboard romance with a wealthy man, but is blackmailed by a former lover. Lady Linton. When it's got Joan Crawford, you know it's going to be good. So check out Lady Linton. Another great movie is Life Begins. At a maternity hospital, future fathers pace the corridors while their wives wait for their babies, either anxiously or happily. Efficient and compassionate nurse Miss Bowers keeps the ward in check. Life Begins. A drama, music, and romance film. Next up, we have Love Affair. Heiress Carol learns to fly from aeronautical engineer Jim, who begins neglecting his work as their affair progresses. Things get complicated when she learns her father died. Love Affair, drama and romance. Next up, we have Madame Butterfly, another film by Cary Grant. Lieutenant Pinkerton marries Geisha in training, but soon after abandons her and goes back to the U.S. So I don't know if this is racism or what, but he went back to the U.S. and ditched her, maybe because of her nationality, who knows. Me and My Gal is a comedy, drama, and romance. Young New York cop Dan falls in love with waterfront waitress Helen. Helen's sister Kate falls for gangster Duke. So there's going to be a love triangle, comedy, drama, and romance in this web of deceit. So check out Me and My Gal. Merrily We Go to Hell, another Cary Grant film. A drunken newspaperman is rescued from his alcoholic haze by an heiress who loves and sobers him up and encourages him to write a play. but he lapses back into alcoholism. Merrily, we go to hell. Next up, we have Harold Lloyd, movie Crazy. After a mix-up with his application photograph, an aspiring actor is invited to test screening and goes off to Hollywood. Comedy, family, and romance. Harold Lloyd in movie Crazy. Next, we have Mr. Robinson's Crusoe. After making a bet, Steve strands himself on an uninhabited island. Douglas Fairbanks, the father of Douglas Fairbanks Jr., stars as Mr. Robinson Crusoe. Check it out. It's an adventure, comedy, and action film. Next up, we have Murder at Dawn. Mad scientist works on a death ray in his mountain hideaway. Jackie Mulhall and Misha Auer. Murder at Dawn. Next, we have Night After Night. A successful ex-boxer opens a high-class speakeasy at what once was the childhood home of a formerly rich society girl. This is a comedy drama featuring George Raft and Constance Cummings. Night After Night. Next up, we have No Man of Her Own, featuring Carol Lombard and Dorothy McCall and Clark Gable. An on-the-lam New York card shark marries a small-town librarian who thinks he's a businessman. No Man of Her Own. Next up, we have 1 Hour with You, a comedy musical romance film. An unhappily married couple try to come between a happy one. This stars Maurice Chevalier, 1 Hour with You. So let's check out this comedy. I think you'll love it. Next up, we have One Way Passage. A terminally ill woman and a debonair murderer facing execution meet and fall in love at a trans-Pacific crossing, each without knowing each other's secret. Starring William Powell and Kay Francis, another power duo. Pack up your troubles, pack up your troubles. Comedy war film. 2 war veterans help an orphan child find her grandfather. Look at her little pigtails. Are they trying to make her look like Shirley Temple? Is this before Shirley Temple or after Shirley Temple? Pack up your troubles. Next up, we have Parachute Jumper. To share expenses, unemployed Alabama moves in with also unemployed Bill and Toodles. Bill is hired by a gangster's mistress and ultimately becomes the gangster's bodyguard. So this is a drama starring Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Next up, we have Polly of the Circus. After a trapeze performer is injured during an accident, she is moved to a minister's house where they both fall in love. This is Marion Davies and Clark Gable in Polly of the Circus. If you haven't already, check it out. I highly recommend it. A Farewell to Arms with Helen Hayes, Gary Cooper, and Adolphe Menjou. An American ambulance driver and an English nurse fall in love in Italy during World War I. Drama, romance, and war. What a great film. Next up, we have a horror film called White Zombie featuring Bela Lugosi from Dracula. A young man turns to a witch doctor to lure the women he loves away from her fiancé, but instead turns her into a zombie slave. White Zombie. Next, we have The Big Stampede with John Wayne. Deputy Sheriff and John Steele recruits bandit Sonora Joe to help him find out who's been bumping off all the local lawmen and rustling the cattle. This is John Wayne in The Big Stampede. It is a western, but it's a good western. 13 Women. 13 Women with Tiffany Thayers. As a crime, drama, and horror, Ursula plots to murder 12 women with her supernatural powers. Even at 1/10 power, notice what a hypersonic beam will do. Rain, featuring Joan Crawford, a prostitute, a slut, a prostitute, or a tramp, newly hired in the South Pacific, finds herself at odds with a stern missionary determined to save her soul. So she's all slutty and she needs saving. So let's see how it turns out. Check out Joan Crawford in Rain. Rasputin and the Empress. A prince plots to kill the mad monk Rasputin for the good of the Tsar, the Tsarina, and Russia. This is a biography, drama, and history. And this is with John Barrymore. Rasputin and the Empress. Red Dust, comedy, drama, and romance. The owner of a rubber plantation becomes involved with the new wife of one of his employees. This stars Clark Gable and Jean Harlow in Red Lust. Next up we have is Red-Headed Woman. Lillian, again with Jean Harlow, relentlessly attempts to seduce a married man, Chester Morris. One of Jean Harlow's best films, actually. Red-Headed Woman. Check it out if you haven't already. Ride 'em Cowboy. Ride 'em Cowboy is with John Wayne. John Drury saves Duke, a wild horse accused of murder, and trains him. When he discovers that the real murderer, a bad guy known as the Hawk, is the town's leading citizen. Action, romance, and western. So join John Wayne in this action-packed western. Ride 'em Cowboy. Scarface, not the Al Pacino Scarface of 80-81. This is Scarface of 32. An ambitious and nearly insane violent gangster climbs the ladder of success in the mob, but his weakness proved to be his downfall. Scarface, starring with Howard Hughes. Next up we have is Shanghai Express. A notorious woman rides a train through a dangerous situation with a British captain she loved. Shanghai Express features Marlene Dietrich. So another great film by a legendary actress. Next up we have Sinners in the Sun. A New York fashion model finds herself being pursued by a poor but honest garage mechanic and a rich philanderer. This features Carol Lombard and Chester Morris. Next one we have is Smiling Through. The adoptive father of a young woman is horrified to learn she plans to marry the son of the man who accidentally killed her aunt years before. Can you imagine? She's falling in love with the killer of her aunt. Drama and romance. Smiling Through. So Big. I don't make up the titles, but this movie is called So Big. After Selena's father dies, she's offered a job as a teacher in a small town, and a new chapter of her life begins. So Big. And this is with Barbara Stanwyck. Next up we have Speak Easily. A timid professor inherits a large sum of money and decides to fund a terrible musical. Speak Easily. With Buster Keaton. That movie is worth watching. Another great movie is called Forbidden with Barbara Stanwyck. A librarian takes a cruise and falls for an unobtainable man, a district attorney married to an invalid. Forbidden. Another great performance by Barbara Stanwyck. Next up, we have Strange Interlude with Norman Shear and Clark Gable. After Nina Leeds finds out that insanity runs in her husband's family, she has a love child with the handsome doctor and lets her husband believe the child is his. Strange Interlude. Double Crossing. Next we have Texas Cyclone with Tim McCoy. Tim McCoy. Pecos Grant rides into a strange town only to find out that everyone recognizes him, not as Pecos Grant, but as a presumed dead man named Rollins. So Texas Cyclone looks to be a keeper. Next we have They Call It Sin. Marianne moves to New York to make it big in the chorus and becomes involved in a love triangle. They Call It Sin, featuring Loretta Young, a very young Loretta Young, and George Brent. Next up we have The Crowd Roars. Race car driver becomes overprotective of his brother when he decides to become a racer as well. The Crowd Roars. What else do we have here? Up next we have is The Dark Horse. Jailbird is hired to lead a dim-witted candidate's campaign for governor. This stars Warren Williams, Betty Davis, and Guy Kinney. The Dark Horse. If you haven't already, check it out. Excuse me. I'm really sleepy. Next up we have is The Death Kiss. Murder during film shoot sparks search for a killer. Alright? Murder during film shoot sparks search for a killer. The Death Kiss. Another great movie. I happen to have it. You should check it out. This movie is called The Horror. Oh, The Horror. A young woman in a creepy old house is terrorized by a killer and an ape-like monster. This movie is classic. It is a drama and horror. If you look back at it now, you may laugh. But back then, it was not terrifying, but it was spooky. It was frightening. It was a good movie. The Mask of Fu Manchu. Englishmen race to find the tomb of Genghis Khan before the sinister Fu Manchu does. This features Boris Karloff, as you know him from Frankenstein, and this was released in 1932. The Most Dangerous Game, action-adventure horror film. A psychotic big game hunter deliberately strands a luxury yacht on a remote island where he begins to hunt its passengers for sport. This movie was great. The Most Dangerous Game. If you haven't already, check it out. The Bitter Tea of General Yan. A Chinese warlord and an engaged Christian missionary fall in love. This stars Barbara Stanwyck, so check out The Bitter Tea. Next up we have Richard Bartholomew in The Cabin in the Cotton. A tenant farmer's son is caught in the middle of owner-tenant disputes when he falls for the plantation owner's seductive daughter. The Cabin in Cotton features Richard Bartholomew. The Last Frontier. A frontier newspaper editor, Kirby, battles outlaw Tiger Morris, who is causing Indian uprisings to drive away settlers, so that he can claim the gold and deposit as his own. The Last Frontier, starring Lon Chaney Jr. The Last Mile is an innocent man sentenced to death gets caught up in a prison riot. Last Mile is an action, crime, and drama movie packed with a lot of great dialogue and fine actors. Howard Phillips and Preston Foster. The Man Who Played God. After losing his hearing, a musician uses lip reading to help others. The Man Who Played God. And of course, only George Arliss knew that one. Again, we got The Most Dangerous Game. A psychotic big game hunter deliberately strands a luxury yacht on a remote island where he begins to hunt its passengers for sport. Next up is Boris Karloff as the Mummy. A resurrected Egyptian mummy searches Cairo for the girl he believes to be his long-lost princess. Another classic horror film from 1932, Boris Karloff gets Frankenstein to become the Mummy. And well played. The Old Dark House. Seeking shelter from a storm, 5 travelers are in for a bizarre and terrifying night when they stumble upon the family estate. The Old Dark House, featuring again Boris Karloff. The Sign of the Cross. A Roman soldier becomes torn between his love for a Christian woman and his loyalty to Emperor Nero. The Sign of the Cross. Check it out. Another great movie if you can. The Crooked Circle. A group of amateur detectives sets out to expose the Crooked Circle, a secretive group of hooded occultists. This is a comedy and mystery, The Crooked Circle. The 13th Guest, not ghost, but guest. 13 years ago, somebody murdered the wealthy host of a dinner party. Now, the guests from that event reunite at that creepy house where the crime took place to figure out who inherited the estate. Next up is They Call It Sin. Marianne moves to New York to make it big in the chorus and becomes involved in a love triangle. That is Loretta Young and Brett Corbett. This is the night. An affair is almost exposed when Claire's husband unexpectedly returns early from the Summer Olympics. This is a comedy, and this is a great movie with Lily DeMita, Charles Ruggles, and Roland Young. This is the night. Next up we have is 3 on a Match. Although Vivian Revere is seemingly the most successful of a trio of reunited schoolmates, she throws it away before descending into a life of debauchery and drugs. So she may become all slutty and stuff like that, working the streets. But 3 on a Match is a very good movie. If you haven't already, check it out. Tiger Shark is a drama romance. A tuna fisherman marries a woman who doesn't love him. So this is going to be a very serious drama movie, but it's actually good. The writing on this is exquisite. Oh, Tiger Shark. Trouble in Paradise. A gentleman thief and a lady pickpocket join forces to con a beautiful perfume company owner. Romantic entanglements and jealousies confuse the scheme. Trouble in Paradise. And this is with Kay Francis. And again, she is a powerhouse actress. Edward G. Robinson stars in 2 Seconds. A condemned murderer in the process of being executed relives the events that led to his being sentenced to die in the electric chair. 2 Seconds. Is it a riveting crime, drama, and thriller movie? Union Depot is a comedy, drama, and romance. Travelers of different and varied backgrounds meet and interact on one night in a metropolitan train station and its environs. Union Depot pits a lot of strangers together. Virtue, a relationship gradually develops between a savvy New York street girl and a good-hearted cab driver, but other matters keep getting in their way, including financial problems and murder. Crime, drama, romance. Virtue. Starring Carol Lombard. What Price Hollywood? I love this movie. It features one of my favorite actors of the 30s, Lowell Sherman. The career of a waitress takes off when she meets an amiable, drunken Hollywood director. What Price Hollywood is a classic. Check it out. Wild Horse Mesa. Shane Weimer, Randolph Scott, an Arizona rancher, goes after a gang that is trapping and catching wild horses by the use of barbed wire enclosures. He suspects Ward of being responsible for that. Wild Horse Mesa. Winner Take All with James Cagney. Young boxer Jim Kane, wrestling at a New Mexico health ranch, meets and falls for Peggy Harmon, former nightclub table singer, who needs $600 more for her sickly son to stay in the place. Winner take all. And lastly, we have You Said a Mouthful, a comedy. Shipping clerk Joe Holt is mistaken for a swimming champion and expected to compete in a long-distance swim race off Catalina Island. You Said a Mouthful is a movie with Ginger Rogers and is a great comedy. These are the films of 1932 that we loved. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. If there was any film that I may have missed, obviously this list is not all inclusive, but if I missed it, let me know which films I missed, and maybe I can do another video on that. I'm Tony, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you all in the next video.